Welcome everyone to the third podcast of the Bank of England Youth Forum podcast series around digital currencies, focusing today on the topic of sustainability. We are very happy to have Derek Sorensen as our guest today. Welcome, Derek. Could you tell us a little more about yourself?
Sure. Thank you for having me on the podcast. It's good to be here. My name is Derek. I am a researcher here at the University of Cambridge. I do maths and computer science mostly, and my focus is on cryptocurrency and blockchains. And so in particular, I contribute to a project here at the university called 4C, which is the Cambridge Center for Carbon Credits, a mouthful and an alliteration. And we are doing carbon offsets on the blockchain is essentially what we're doing. So we're one of many groups right now looking to put carbon credits and that whole market on the blockchain.
Extremely interesting. British youth is really concerned in general about sustainability, and when people talk about digital currencies, especially cryptocurrencies, they often mention sustainability. And for one main reason is due to pollution. What causes the usage of some cryptocurrencies to be a source of pollution?
Sure. Yeah, so I think you've had this mentioned on previous episodes, kind of the difference between proof of work and proof of stake, but let me just give a quick kind of overview. Every cryptocurrency and blockchain needs a way to keep the ledger secure. And the whole point of it is that you have this whole distributed network of computers that are all talking to each other, and they all have the same story of what's going on the ledger, and no single party can make edits. And so the idea is that you have this this ledger. It's coherent. Everyone thinks it's the same thing, and everyone has the same record of it. And it's highly resistant to being tampered with and to being hacked. So in order to do that, you need some way for the whole network to come to consensus. And this is a famously difficult problem. Historically, there have been mostly kind of computers talk to each other and they go through rounds of voting, and there's this kind of algorithmic way that you can prove mathematically that certain kind of features of consensus are satisfied. When Bitcoin was introduced in 2008, its method of consensus was totally new, and it's based on hash rate. It's based on the compute power of your computer. And so if you're going to take over the Bitcoin network and hack it, you have to actually expend physical resources to do it. So it takes the theoretical problem and it makes it actually tangibly physical. And the resource that you have to expend is electricity. So depending on where you get your electricity from, if it's renewable and it's clean electricity, which it's hard to quite know if any electricity is really clean, but if it's that, then you're not polluting. But if you're emitting pollutants because of your electricity, then that's the link.
Yeah, so leading on from that, I just wanted to know, so like, what's the energy consumption of cryptocurrencies globally, so like as a whole?
Yeah, so that is actually very hard to estimate, and I don't know that anyone fully knows the answer to that. Most big cryptocurrencies have moved to proof of stake. And in fact, the second biggest Ethereum moved last week through this huge event called the Merge. It's been anticipated for like 9 years. It used to be on proof of work, highly intensive, like electricity wise. Now it's proof of stake. And so it doesn't consume much electricity. The move reduced its electricity usage for 99%. The main remaining cryptocurrency that still uses proof of work, this highly intensive methodology, is Bitcoin. And so some of my colleagues here at the university have developed an index where you can track the electricity expenditure of Bitcoin itself. It's the Cambridge Bitcoin Electricity Consumption Index, or CBECI. So if you just Google CBECI Bitcoin, you should be able to find this website, and it has really nice visuals. And there are a few cool things here. One of them is that it estimates roughly like the yearly electricity consumption of Bitcoin, and it has a map of where the miners are. It's lots of really cool kind of visuals here. So at the moment, the estimated electricity usage for a year of Bitcoin, the whole network, is 10.88 gigawatts. So before this podcast, I kind of looked up some conversions, and I won't try to like tell you what that means in real life, because I don't fully know if all my sources were correct. So I'll leave that to the listener. 10.88 gigawatts per year. There are some websites that will let you convert that to like average household electricity expenditure, things like that. But one thing, really cool thing on this website is there's a map of the world. It shows where the miners mostly are. A lot of miners used to be in China, but then China clamped down and banned mining. So a lot of them left. Miners right now are mostly focused in the United States. They're distributed all over the world. The United States has the most miners, has 37%, 37.84%. The UK has about 0.23% of those miners. So yeah, the electricity consumption will vary with there are certain things that make it become more electricity intensive, and things that make it less. Most of that is kind of competition for miners, people that are mining. So if there are a lot of miners, the difficulty will go up and electricity will go up. So in peak electricity consumption times, it's been as like almost 50% higher than what it is now. But right now, it's kind of a bear market. So fewer people interested and fewer people mining.
And you mentioned the UK when discussing about the map. How much is Bitcoin being mined in the UK, and especially now when everyone is discussing about energy prices, low energy stocks, is the UK a large producer of Bitcoin, or is there still a low amount of electricity being used to mine cryptocurrencies in the UK?
Yeah, very little comparatively to the rest of the world. On this kind of interactive map, the CBECI estimates that UK only uses about 0.2. It only contributes about 0.23%. So 0.23% of this 10.8 gigawatts. So incentives for mining directly tie to how expensive electricity is, and how expensive and how much Bitcoin sells for. So miners will tend to optimize for the cheapest possible electricity at the highest, and they'll sell Bitcoin at the highest kind of sell rate, and they fund themselves, generally speaking, through this conversion. So they mine Bitcoin and sell it, and that's how they fund their farms. So if electricity prices go up in the UK, as they currently are, and they likely will, especially this winter and throughout Europe this winter, my guess is that we'll see a lot fewer miners in Europe, just because it's not profitable to be mining. So either they'll just shut it off for the time being because the electricity is too expensive, or they'll move their operation to somewhere that has cheaper electricity.
Yes, so you briefly touched on the merge and what was happening there, but are there any other kind of movements that are helping to improve the sustainability within cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, definitely. So like you said, the main movement over the last few years has been transitioning from proof of work to proof of stake. So most modern blockchains, like I said, are proof of stake, and those require very little in resources. The main activity that's interesting right now on the blockchain is related to these carbon markets. So kind of some of the stuff we're doing here at the university, but there are lots of groups that are doing this. And so on the blockchain, on blockchains that allow for smart contracts, so these will be like Ethereum, Avalanche, Cardano, Tezos, all these, they're, most blockchains, I'm blanking on all these names right now. Pretty much every blockchain, except for Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't really meaningfully have smart contracts. These people are building, you can have tokens on these blockchains, so you can tokenize assets. And so what's happening right now is people are making tokens that represent carbon credits of some kind. Either they're backed by physical, like carbon credits from current registries like Vera. So these are carbon offsets. Maybe I should explain exactly what these are. There are projects that are capturing carbon in some way. So there are some that use like industrial scale like machines to do this, but the vast majority are nature-based. And so it's essentially like growing trees and maintaining forests and avoiding deforestation. If you can prove to some organizations like Vera or Gold Standard or Red Plus, they will issue you a carbon credit. And this is a credit toward like offsetting your own emissions. And so when Google makes the claim that they're net zero, or Apple, or any other company, if they claim to be net zero, what they've done is they have estimated their own emissions and they've tried to offset that by buying offsets off of the open market. And there's a growing trend to do this, these voluntary carbon offset markets. So these markets are meaningfully moving on blockchain. There are some really good reasons for that. It's a good fit for the kind of decentralized nature of the blockchain. It's borderless naturally, and you can encode markets really quite effectively. That said, it's still really quite nascent as an industry. But this is very, very interesting activity happening right now. So tons happening on Ethereum. Here at Cambridge, we're building mostly on Tezos for now. The CLO blockchain is one interesting one that's like specifically oriented toward sustainability. And so all their projects do that. And if you have a token on the blockchain, you can do lots of cool things with it. You can integrate it in more ways than just having a marketplace. You can gamify it, and there are several other interesting applications. So the goal of this industry is to really kind of solve this global coordination problem over climate change, which is how do we lower our total emissions? And in order to do so, we need to fund projects that are capturing carbon. And that's historically been quite difficult to do efficiently. And so what's happening on the blockchain is it's essentially connecting people who want to buy carbon credits in this global decentralized marketplace that's borderless with people who want to sell them, and doing so with more and more efficiency every day. The hope is that eventually there's really robust infrastructure so that this is a seamless thing. Yeah, so that's our vision at least.
This is extremely interesting because when we talk about cryptocurrencies, and blockchain in general technology, we only think typically of the negative side of it, but it seems that there's also some positive side of blockchain and technology in itself. And maybe on a final question, do you you mentioned that Bitcoin was in a sense one of the last large cryptocurrency running on a proof of work consensus mechanism. Do you expect this to ever change? Do you think that at some point Bitcoin will run with a proof of stake consensus mechanism?
No, never. No, I mean, never say never, right? And who knows what the Bitcoin community will do, but I really can't imagine them departing from proof of work. And at least the way that I conceptualize these cryptocurrencies, it seems to me that there's a good reason for why, like Bitcoin, part of what is key to its narrative as it's different from other cryptocurrencies in that it's conceptualized as digital gold. And so it's a store of value. With other cryptocurrencies, you have these smart contracts, and what you really have is a smart contracting platform, and the cryptocurrency is like gas for that, and ownership of the network and the value of that currency goes up with the value of the network. So Ethereum, using the network effect, as more and more things get on Ethereum, the idea is that ETH will eventually go up in value because of the value of the network itself. Bitcoin is different, where it's one of the last remaining cryptocurrencies where you expend physical resources, like literal, hard physical resources for this digital money, and its security is underpinned by that. And in some sense, it being underpinned by physical processes like that, rather than kind of these economic game theoretic incentives like proof of stake, it's a physical process, is inherent kind of to its message and to its security, and it's just so core to the value proposition that I really can't see them changing ever. And whether that's a problem or not, it does use electricity. That's true. Lots of things that we do to secure our assets use lots of electricity. So I wouldn't view it as just unequivocally a negative that it uses so much electricity. It's more nuanced, I think, the issue from there. And hopefully, all of that consumption will be more than offset on all the good activity that we have going on the other blockchains.
Awesome. Derek Sorensen, thank you so much for your time. It was a real pleasure.
You're welcome. Yeah, good to be here.